Hi and welcome to this video on the Fiat Ducato. We are back from our European round trip to Luxembourg, Switzerland, Italy, France, and I bet you're wondering, did I have any problems with Rory the camper van? Well, actually, I had a few issues. Actually, I had 6 issues with Rory, but what I can say is that I didn't have any mechanical problems as far as the engine is concerned. Probably my biggest worry for the whole trip. I had 6 things go wrong or fail while we were away. The first thing was the air vent on the dashboard. The second thing was my brakes got really hot coming down a mountain. It was about an 8-9 mile descent. Unfortunately, I had to stop on the way down the other side of this mountain, purely and simply because my brakes were getting way too hot. They've actually melted. Look, you can push the trim, look. They've melted the plastic on the wheel trim. That's how hot that is in there. They were smoking quite a bit, but you can probably just about see it. But still, I don't think there's any harm done. Just let them cool down and we'll be on our way. I'd been freewheeling for a little bit of it and not using the gearbox to keep my speed down, but subsequently the front wheels got so hot that the wheel trims, albeit the cheap wheel trims that I'd purchased, melted to and adhered themselves to the wheels themselves. I pulled over once I got a whiff of the smell coming into the cab and realised what was going on. So I left them on there after it had cooled down, and when I got to the bottom of the mountain, the 2 front wheel trims went missing, and so I had 2 left on the back, and I obviously took those off and threw them away, which just left me with the bare wheels. I wasn't happy about that, but I think the problem with it was they were cheap trims and they almost covered the entire face of the wheel, blocking the holes stroke vents in the wheels, so that didn't help in terms of the temperature. It was really hot. We were 35 degrees at best around there, so a lot of things. Freewheeling is a no-no. You really shouldn't do that. I got it into my head I could save a few pounds on fuel. The brakes survived. Luckily enough, I'd put new pads on before I went, so there was plenty of meat on them. No damage to the discs. I had to stop 4 times on my way down that mountain just to give the brakes a breather and let them cool down. Number 3, I started to get a blinking DRL on the driver's side front, the top one. Never did that before, but I assume it's going, so I'm going to have to change that. Number 4, I adopted a water leak out of my holding tank when it was about 66% full. So I kind of worked out that it was a pipe going into it from the shower room, i.e. it was the sink, I think, or it might have been the shower waste, but there's obviously a leak on the tank which I need to look at. I don't think the tank's damaged. It didn't leak below that level, so fingers crossed that's not too bad a fix. I've got a light, or one of my lights in the sleeping area of the van has these touch sensitive lights. One of them has decided to just keep coming on randomly when it suits itself, particularly at night when you're asleep, and it comes on full whack and it just drives you spare. So I'm going to probably have to look at replacing that. It's either a faulty unit or it's grounding out somewhere on the behind the panel. I don't know. We'll look into that one. And last but not least, I noticed a crack in my instrument cluster, which was like probably the worst one out of all of them, really, because it's not an easy fix. We'll take a look at that one and crack on with the repairs. Removal of the vent is quite straightforward. I need to remove my panel here which holds my air suspension. I just actually found the other side of the clip that had broken off on the floor. This panel here has got to be undone, these two here. This pops down. Take these two screws out in here, that will pull out, and then I'll have a couple of screws under here to remove to get the vent out. The removal, mainly all Phillips screws. For me, I've got one at the top, two, and a third one down there. You then have to undo two that are in the bottom of your trim, which hold this piece on. Undo these two here, which access your fuse panel. Removing those two will allow you to pop that front panel down, which I don't actually need to remove. And then the one that would have been hidden down here for me, that one's out. And then that'll allow you to drop down your air controls. And then you've got another one tucked up underneath there. And if you undo that one and lift it up, hey presto. So removal's reasonably straightforward, just fiddly. You've got two tabs running through either side, there and there. If you put a little screwdriver in here and gently lift them up, as gently as you can, and they will pop out. Bearing in mind, I don't want the outer casing on this one, so I'm not overly worried about it. Hallelujah. So I've given it a clean up. I've put a little bit of grease on here. This wheel here was actually missing off of the donor one. Glad I spotted it, but anyway, I've taken that off the old one, which would have been there. But everything's working fine. That's the mechanism that opens and closes your vent. I've cleaned it up in there as best I can. There's one, two that side, and two that side. Well, that went back rather well. And then in it goes. And that gives me my open and close and my notchy up and down, because they're such crap quality. That vent, you can see in there is a locator, like a box that it goes and sits in. Looks good to me. And then do up your screw underneath. And then for me, it's a case of popping that back, popping my controls back in, screwing those up. So in. Trim, which will clip initially into place. And then you've got a couple of big screws that go in down the bottom there. You've got one that goes in there and one that tucks up just inside of there. Then you can just put your fuse panel back like that. Quite annoying these, because if you're roadside and you need access to your fuse panel, you've got to have a Phillips screwdriver to get them out. Bit of a daft idea really, but they should be easily accessible. And that's that job finished. Horrible fittings, but anyway, it's working again. So job number one ticked off. Number two is the wheel trims. This is where the trim had welded itself to the wheel, and it basically melted. I have the original trims, but I only have 3 of those because I lost one and I bought the cheap set. That's why I ended up with them. The trouble with the cheap set was simply that A, they were really cheap, flimsy plastic, and number two, they were actually flush on the actual wheel itself, so any heat in there was transferred to the plastic straight away. Terrible design. They were cheap and cheerful. Should never have bought them. I only bought them because I was planning to get a set of alloys, but I can't drive around like that for the rest of the year. So I have ordered a genuine Fiat trim, which will go on the one that's missing, and I'll use my other three just to make up the set. And it's so fortunate that I didn't sell them before I went away. And this is the other ones, just need a clean up and they'll be ready to go back on board. Because of the fact that they did get so hot, what I plan to do is inspect both ends and the rears. The MOT's due up next month as well, so I'm going to take the wheels off and check the discs and pads and make sure that everything's okay. So for now, I'm going to just leave them off and I'll put them on when I get the fourth one that's due in through the post any time now. So skipping 3 and 4 for the time being, number 5 was the insane light. This is the top one, and you touch it and it comes on, and you touch it and it goes off. This one, by all accounts now, is on low all the time. If you touch it, it doesn't do anything. Yeah, I can't do anything with it now. It's just permanently on. So I think that's a duff fitting. The others are fine. That one works all right. So does that one. So I'm going to replace those, get a couple of new ones. Number 6 was the crack that mysteriously appeared in the instrument cluster. I've spoken to a number of people about this, and it seems to be quite a common trait, because I'm always really careful to not allow anything to sit on it, or I don't rest anything in there. Like a lot of people, like on the ordinary vans, they throw all their crap in there. And I just happened to notice when we were in Cecina that it had a crack in it, and it looks like this. So the crack is on the side of the heater gauge. You might be able to see it better from this angle. It's literally, there it is. Now I've put a bit of shade on it. So, you know, sitting at it directly, you don't really notice it that much. And I can't recall what it looks like at night. But that job's going to be on the back burner as I am hunting high and low. I've found a couple of clusters where I could remove the lens because it's quite easily detachable and just put it on my one. But the trouble is they're all so badly scratched up. Mine's like brand new, and these ones are typical of where they've been resting stuff on them and they've all got scuffed and scratched. So I'm looking really for a top one. If anyone knows of anyone that's got one or has one, then, you know, give me a shout. I don't mind paying for it. I just want to get it replaced. But it's one of those things that I just have to live with for the time being because they're just not easily available. The only way I can get one from Fiat is if I buy the entire cluster. They don't do a replacement on its own. Sad, but there you go. So that just leaves me 3 and 4, which was the blinking DRL and the water leak on the tank. I'm going to take a look at the DRL now, see if I can get it to happen again. So unfortunately, for the purpose of the camera, they are all blinking, whereas they currently, to the naked eye, aren't. It's this side that's the offending article. I haven't seen it flash yet, but I guess it's when it's on for a while it starts playing up. I'm going to change the bulb anyway, and hopefully that might cure the problem. So the removal is very straightforward. You've got a fixing here, and this big one goes in there, and then slide your headlight to the right slightly, being careful not to catch this corner on there as you'll scratch the lens, as this has happened on here before. So I'm just going to change the bulb. It appears to be blinking on the video, but it isn't in reality. It hasn't blinked at all since I turned it on. So I've worked out that without the engine running, They don't flicker at all, even on camera. So it's got to be down to a power surge when the alternator's running, but it only does it on one side. So what I'm going to look into is maybe putting a ballast resistor in there to see if that cures it. I don't actually think the bulb is at fault at all. This one was really red hot, obviously because they were on when I removed it. But I'm now beginning to believe that it's purely and simply down to the rate of charge that's causing them to flash. So I'm going to look into that. And that's with it running. Air vent done. Wheel trim, I'm waiting for one to be delivered, and I want to check the brakes over before I put them back on. That one can wait. The DRL, I've changed the bulb. Hasn't blinked. Didn't blink before, but it's not blinking now. The holding tank, I've had a little look at that. So looking at the water tank, I've got this pipe here coming from, I think that's the sink. And you can see this has all come away. Look. Yeah, that's just loosely sitting in there. So I have to deal with that one. There's also another one, which is the shower tray, which looks like it's been repaired before. Not in my time, but I will have a look, do both of them, fill the tank up, see what happens. And I'll do that another day. The touch sensitive light, I'll look at ordering something different to fit in there. The crack, I can't do a lot about the crack except keep hunting around for hopefully a half decent replacement lens. It's not critical, you know, I'm just being pedantic, is that the word? There was a number 7 which I'd forgotten about, and that is, I think my leisure battery's going. We had a park up for the night in Leon. Well, it was only the fridge that was really running while we weren't sitting around for hours before with all the lights on and stuff. We got there at 10. By 11:30 we was in bed. When I woke up at 5 in the morning, the fridge alarm was going off because the voltage had dropped below 11 volts. So it had shut itself down. So that's got to be the leisure battery. Shouldn't play up like that in that sort of period of time, particularly as we done a 10-hour run that day. Everything was 100% when we arrived. That one's been in there 3 years that I've had the van so far, and it wasn't brand new when I put it in. It was about a year old, so it probably owes me nothing. So that's it for this one. Stay tuned for more stuff on the camper and the Porsche. I've got a few jobs that I need to do, which I'll be videoing and showing you how I go about it. Hope that's been of use to you. Thanks for watching. It's just a little update after my holiday, which I've got to say was absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to get stuck in with some new work. So thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.